Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Emperor's New Road, China and the Project of the Century, by Jonathan E. Hillman, narrated by Eric Jason Martin. Preface. Trapped in no man's land, somewhere between China and Kyrgyzstan, I had time to think. Border guards at checkpoint 5 of 7 had just started their lunch break, and I had to wait for their return. A few days earlier, I had attended the first Belt and Road Forum in Beijing, a massive and tightly choreographed celebration of Xi Jinping's signature foreign policy vision for connecting China and the world. But on China's border, things were moving slowly, if at all. As minutes stretched into hours, the idea for this book was born. In Washington, D.C. and other Western capitals, policymakers heard about the forum in Beijing. They read about dozens of foreign leaders showing up, over 60 countries signing on to China's effort, ancient trade routes being revived, and other grand claims, often the same ones that Chinese state media tout. They saw maps of new economic corridors running outward from China. All these details add to an image of China as cunning, strategic, and marching in lockstep toward mid-century. They missed the lunch breaks and border delays. From afar, the challenges standing in the way of China's global ambitions, including actual mountains, look smaller. Ironically, given an abundance of suspicion, relatively little has been done to check whether actions on the ground are advancing these ambitions. Quite understandably, most people cannot spend time crossing China's borders by car, foot, and boat, or climbing onto its trains and docks in other countries, as I have done while writing this book. This book shares those glimpses of ground truth. When the border guards returned several hours later and waved my vehicle through, arriving in Kyrgyzstan was something of a homecoming. In 2009, I lived in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan's capital, as a Fulbright scholar. I was fascinated by how Central Asia reflected and balanced outside influences. I was greeted by Asians who prayed to Allah, drank vodka, spoke Russian, ate Turkish food, listened to American music, and traded Chinese goods. I came to appreciate how the world's crossroads provide a checkup of the global order. Kyrgyzstan is different a decade later. Gone is the U.S. military base that served as a hub for troops and supplies going to Afghanistan. China's presence has poured out of the bazaars and into new roads, fiber-optic cables, and power projects. Xinhua, the Chinese state media outlet, has opened a cultural center in Bishkek that sells copies of Xi Jinping's writing. Yet the Kyrgyz people are hardly sold. Rather than warming to Xi's call for a community of common destiny, many are wary of China's influence and appalled by its internment of ethnic minorities. This landscape, as I have tried to show it, has much in common with the past, but it is more complex than any great game or imperial contest. While the United States mostly complains these days, China is forging ahead, but it is not doing so alone or uncontested. Japan, India, Russia, and many others have their own designs. Far from being pawns, smaller countries are often the most pivotal players. Many of them have far more recent experience dealing with outside powers than China has acting as one. The road is theirs, as I hope it will remain for years to come. Part 1. Empire Strikes Back. Chapter 1. Project of the Century. The orchestra struck up as the people's leader entered the cavernous hall. As he strode down the red carpet, entourage at his back, his hundreds of distinguished guests stood and applauded. They fell silent when he took the dais. "Dear friends," he said, looking out at the sea of visitors, "this is indeed a gathering of great minds." In flattering them, he flattered himself. His friends numbered royalty, presidents, merchants, and intellectuals, and were a Noah's Ark of nationalities: Asians, Arabs, Africans, Europeans, Persians, and Russians. From all corners of the world they had trekked to his court. Some came to pay tribute, some came to trade. Others, like me, came out of curiosity. It was a scene that Marco Polo might have recognized from his travels during the 13th century, but it was May 14, 2017, at the Belt and Road Forum in Beijing. President Xi Jinping stood before nearly 30 heads of state and delegates from over 130 countries. "In the coming 2 days," he explained, "we will contribute to pursuing a project of the century." But that was an understatement. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, pursued to its end, stands to become the project of the century. Its size and reach are staggering. China has promised to spend $1 trillion building new roads, railways, and other infrastructure beyond its borders. Adjusted for inflation, that is roughly 7 times what the United States spent through the Marshall Plan to rebuild Western Europe after World War II. It is 5 times as much as the Trump administration proposed and failed to persuade Congress to provide for infrastructure within the United States. The contrast is striking. The world's leading power no longer leads, while its rising power charts a course to the center of everything. It is impossible to fathom the BRI without a map. When Xi announced the BRI in 2013, it had 2 key aspects: an overland belt across the Eurasian supercontinent, and, somewhat confusingly, a maritime road across the Indian Ocean and up to Europe via the Suez Canal. Originally called One Belt, One Road, its purported aims are to deepen trade, investment, policy coordination, and even cultural ties. These new connections all have one thing in common: they lead to China. Xi's vision is constrained by neither geography nor even gravity. Since its announcement, the BRI has stretched into the Arctic, cyberspace, and outer space. The list of participants has grown to exceed 130 nations and includes not only China's neighbors, but also most African countries and even countries in Latin America. After Governor Jerry Brown of California visited China in June 2017, Chinese state media mischievously speculated that California could join. The same forces that powered China's meteoric rise are now being channeled through the BRI and beyond its borders. Over just a decade, China went from having no high-speed railways to having more than the rest of the world combined. Increasingly, Chinese companies challenged those from Japan, Europe, and other advanced economies for projects in world markets. The BRI also provides a runway for China's bloated state-owned companies to take off and parachute into new markets. Between 2011 and 2013, China used more cement than the United States required during the entire 20th century, and its ability to build now outstrips its domestic needs. Home to 7 of the world's 10 largest construction companies, China desperately needs to ensure paychecks for its millions of workers. The BRI is their safety net. The BRI has become more than a policy. It is a brand. With such large amounts of investment available, central and local governments, private firms, and non-profit organizations are incentivized to repackage their work around the BRI. Over 100 Chinese think tanks are dedicated to studying it. In China, there are Belt and Road fashion shows, music festivals, and art exhibits. Belgrade's annual marathon was added to the Belt and Road Marathon series. This race was different. It does not focus on the competition level, but more on friendship, cultural exchange, and promoting economic growth, an organizer explained. But for all the attention the BRI receives, it remains poorly understood. A major challenge is that the BRI label evades classification. There is no official definition for what qualifies as a BRI project. There are Chinese-funded projects in non-participant countries that share many of the same characteristics. The BRI was officially launched in 2013, but projects that were started years earlier are often counted. China's lending is opaque, leading observers to piece together bits of information from public sources and keeping...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?